Hi, I'm Annie Fitzsimmons. I'm your Washington Realtors legal hotline lawyer. This is the first video in a series that we've entitled Overconfident Sellers plus Overeager Buyers equals Broker Liability. And in this series, we are going to highlight for you practices, I would identify them as risky practices, that I am seeing emerge as a result of a crazy seller's marketplace. I'm hearing about these practices through the emails I receive as the Washington Realtors legal hotline. I know that there are many other practices out there as well that probably make you concerned when buyers or sellers ask you to do something in particular for them, or buyers and sellers themselves engage in a practice that you think is risky. And in every single episode of this video series, I'm going to make it very clear to you that there are three things you need to do whenever that little red flag goes up in the back of your brain. Because I'm only going to be able to highlight to you the experiences of other brokers that I'm seeing on the hotline. You no doubt will face experiences of your own on a daily basis, making you wonder, is this going to cause liability? So here's what you need to do in every case. You need to explain the risk to your client. You need to help your client avoid that risk if possible. And if your client is determined to proceed on a course that you perceive to be risky, either for them or ultimately for your liability, then you need to document your file with the warnings that you've given to your client and the advice that you have given to your client to seek the assistance of an expert in the area, the specialty area that's causing you the concern, whether it's legal advice, tax advice, assistance with a home inspector, whomever it is that will be able to fill the need that you are seeing as a potential risk for your client. Then you document your file with the fact that you have orally and in writing warned the client of the risk and advised them to seek the advice of an expert in that area. Here's an example. Any of you who are busy in a seller's market right now are aware of the frustration that buyers face in making offer after offer and losing the property that they're trying to purchase. And inside that buyer, it creates this emotional drive to make sure they don't lose the next house. And that means that they are going to bid whatever price is required in order to be the successful bidder. And we are seeing prices all over the state be driven higher and higher and higher than any listing broker perceives to be market value. Here's the risk. The risk is really, in this case, to the buyer's broker. Buyer's broker, you have a buyer who says that they're willing to pay, I don't know, make up the number, $100,000 over what you perceive to be market value, what you know to be the reasonably close market value based on the comps that you're seeing out there. And they're going to pay $100,000 more because they're paying cash or because they have the additional amount to put down and they're not going to be constrained by an appraisal. Your job, buyer broker, is to advise them of the risk in overpaying. Short-term benefit, you get this house. But 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, maybe the seller's market has eased and now they're trying to sell this property that they overpaid $100,000 for in 2017, and here we are in 2020, and they can't get a buyer for anywhere close to what they paid for the property. Who are they angry with at that point? Are they angry with themselves? Gosh, we paid too much. We should have not paid this much. Or are they angry with their buyer's broker who led them to pay that much more for the property than it was worth? So you explain to them the risk of overpaying for property. You help them avoid it if possible. If a buyer has lost enough houses, it's probably not going to be possible to talk them out of it. But you help them understand the risk and you explain to them that maybe they avoid this by renting for another year and seeing what happens in the marketplace. Of course, the risk is that the prices have gone even higher. But it's also possible that in a year the market has eased. Or maybe they go outside of the area, the geographical area that they're looking, and they look in an area with a less intense seller marketplace. Give them options. Help them to avoid overpaying for the property. And then if it finally gets to the point where they say, look, I hear your good reason, I need to pay what I have to pay for this property because I want to own this home, then you document your file. You document your file with an email. You get a reply to the email. The email says something to the effect of, as we discussed, I believe that you are overpaying for this property, and I understand your frustration in having already lost, however many properties already, and I understand the intensity of your desire to purchase this property, but I do want you to know that I believe you're overpaying for this property, and when you try to sell it in the future, it may be more difficult because of the price you paid for it. And before you agree to pay this price for the property, I encourage you to seek the advice of an appraiser, a lawyer, maybe even a tax accountant. Think of the various folks who could provide professional expertise and in some respect give you cover, you as the real estate broker, give you cover later in a claim that you erred in your representation of these clients. You did what you could do, you explained to them the risk, you gave them options to try and avoid the risk, and ultimately when they were determined to proceed, you documented your file with the warning and with the advice to seek the advice of experts in an area that exceeded the scope of your expertise. I hope that makes sense. This is a pattern you're going to hear from me over and over in this video series because I do believe this is the only way you are going to protect yourself from liability in a marketplace where sellers are overconfident and buyers are overeager. If you have questions on this topic or any other, please send an email to me, legalhotline@warealtor.org. Thank you for being a Washington Realtors member.